Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel. Today I'll be drafting a shoulder princess that bustier, and these are the measurement needed. So with me here I have my paper. Then from this line I already ruled a line. From this first line I'll make this my shoulder line. So you will mark from that shoulder line to the second line is my bust line. Then next place you measure is your under bust line, and then you measure your waistline. So now for that 1 inch I took there, that will be for my seam allowance. So now my normal shoulder measurement is 8 inches, but I'm going to be making use of 10. Your shoulder measurement divided by 2, then plus 2 inches. So this is what I'm doing now. I'm just going to mark it 10. The 2 inches is for my shoulder dart intake. So now I'll measure 3 inches for my shoulder wideness and 3 inches for the depth, and this is just for the style I posted this with, but I'm going to be making use of 6 inches for the depth. You can go out by 4 inches for the wideness if you want, then 6 inches for the depth, or 5 inches, whatever inches you want. So I'm just going to mark the 6 inches here, and then I'll connect. This is the particular inches that I want, which is 6 inches. So I'll just connect, meeting that point. So now the next thing I'll do is I'm going to place my tape on my shoulder line and mark out my actual shoulder measurement, which is 16 inches divided by 2. It will give me 8 inches. I'm going to mark it there. So now what I'll be left with now is the 2 inches I'm going to be taking for my shoulder dart intake from this point to this point. And then from that particular point, that is where I'm going to be taking my armhole measurement from. So from there I'm going to come down by 1 inches, and this is for my shoulder slope. So now I will connect just like this. And then now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out my armhole measurement, which is 17 divided by 2 give me 8.5. I'm just going to tick 8 there, and then I will use my ruler to connect from my shoulder slope, meeting that 8.5 inches I have for my armhole measurement. Then I will rule a straight line this way. So now this is for my chest line. I'm just going to mark it there. Now the next thing I'll do, I'm going to measure what I have there. I'll divide it by 2, and then I'm going to come in by ½ inch. So now I'll place my ruler this way and I will connect this way, meeting my chest line just like this. And this will be for my armhole for the front. Then the next thing I'll do, I'll mark my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I'll just place it there, so down to the waistline, and then I'll connect with my roll. Please, when cutting on your fabric, fold your fabric into 2. So now I'm going to connect from those points straight just like this. Now from the waistline, I'll mark 1.5 inches for my dart intake for the side front, and then from the same place I'm going to mark ½ inches for the center front. Then I'll do the same thing for my under bust line. So now the next thing I'll do, I will connect to each point I marked out from my under bust line to my waistline, just as you see me doing. Now the next thing I will do, I'm going to come down from my bust line by 1 inch, and this is just to sit the bust properly. So now I'll connect from my under bust, meeting that 1 inch I took below my bust line this way. I'll be doing the same thing for the center front, just like this. Now I will go back to my shoulder line. I'll mark out 8 inches, which is my normal shoulder measurement. Then I'm going to take. Now I will divide what I have left on my shoulder line, which is 5 inches. From that point, I'm going to divide it by 2, which is 2.5 inches, and I'll mark it there. Now from that particular point, now I'm going to connect to my bust line. Now I'll mark out 1/2 inch from my center front side, then 1.5 inch from my side front part. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect with my ruler from that point. I mark my 1/2 inch to that my bust point. Now I'll connect this way. So now I'll be doing the same thing for the place I marked the 1.5 inches. Then I'll connect that same way to my bust line. If you're busting, you can actually make use of 3 inches for the dart intake. So now I'll just indicate this as my dart area. I'm going to cut this part out. So now I'll mark my body measurement divided by 4 and replace my dart intake on each part except my bust line. After doing that, I'll connect to those points I marked out for my body measurement with my ruler. After marking my body measurement and replacing the dart, I will mark out 2 inches for my allowance on each point and connect those points together. So here is my allowance. I'm done with the front, so I'll just cut this out. So now I'm done cutting out the front pattern. I'll place my tape to check if I still have my 8 inches for my normal shoulder measurement. And here guys, I still have my 8 inches. So I'll just go ahead and label this. My center front and side front. And this is all for the front part. So now I have a paper for my back pattern. I already drew the line, and from this line I'll make this my shoulder line. So from your shoulder line, measure to your bust point. Then from your shoulder line, still measure to your under bust point. Then to your waist point. Then 1 inch for the seam allowance. Please guys, when drafting the back pattern, add 1.5 inches for the zipper part. I just realized that I didn't add it, but I later did. So please watch this video to the end so you understand it better. So now I'll mark out my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 8 inches. Then I'll be making use of 3 inches for the wideness. You can actually come out by 4 inches if you want, but I'm making use of 3 inches. Then I will come down by 2 inches for the depth of the neck, and I'll connect to both points. Now from that 8 inches I marked out, I'll come down by 1 inches, and this will be for my shoulder slope. Now from this point I'll come down by 8.5 inches, which is for my armhole measurement that I divided by 2. I'll connect straight, then connect this way also. So now this will be for my chest line. So I'm going to divide what I have there by 2 and get the midpoint. And this particular back, I'm not going to go in by half inches. I'm just going to connect straight. After I mark my body measurement, which is divided by 4, I'll just stick it there. And then I'll connect from that point, meeting my body measurement on my chest line. So now the next thing I will do is to take my nipple to nipple measurement from my bust line down to my waistline and draw a straight line on each point I marked. So now the next thing I will do is to come down by 1 inches from my chest line and extend the line meeting that point. Now what I will do, I will take half inch for my center back and half inch for my side back, and I will connect meeting my bust line. So now this is for my dart. So now the next thing I will do is to take my body measurement. Already I've marked out my bust measurement. So the next place I'll take my measurements is my under bust line. So now I'll replace that dart intake, which is half inches. I'll replace it there, and I will do the same thing for my waist measurement, and I'll replace the dart intake. So after doing that, I will connect to those points and row my body measurement. So now I'm done marking out my body measurement. I'll add 2 inches for my allowance on each line and connect with my roller the same way. So now this is for my allowance. So now remember the 1.5 inch zipper allowance I was supposed to add earlier on. I'm going to add this now so you understand better. I'll use my tape to secure this down to the waistline. So now I'm done securing this with my tape down to my waistline. I'll roll a straight line indicating the part that is for my zip allowance. So now this is for my zipper allowance. So the next thing I will do is to minus half inch from my waistline, which is that point, also my same allowance line. I will connect this straight meeting my chest line, and this is just to balance the zipper part so there won't be any bulge after sewing. So now I will just be marking this date because I'm going to cut this part out. Now I'll be doing the same thing for my seam allowance line. I'll just come up by half inch there. I'm going to connect this to my zipper part. Then I'll come up by half inch from that my seam allowance line, and then from that point I'm going to connect just like this, meeting my seam allowance line. Remember, I came up by half inch from my seam allowance line. I will slant it this way, meeting that's my seam allowance exact line. So now I minused half inch from that 1 inch I took for my seam allowance, and this I will be cutting this out, and this is just to balance the joining at the back part. So now I'm just going to cut out the back pattern. So now this is for the back pattern and the front pattern. This is it for my shoulder princess dart bustier. So please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.